They slammed him onto the metal cafeteria table so hard the trays jumped, fries flying everywhere, and the whole room froze to watch. The new kid's back hit the surface with a crack, his orange jumpsuit riding up as a tattooed bully climbed on top of him, hands wrapping around his collar like he was about to choke the life out of him. COs were too far. Inmates were circling in to enjoy the show, and everyone figured this fresh fish was done. But what nobody in that room understood yet was that the quiet guy at the end of the table, the one who hadn't said a single word all week, had promised a grieving mother he would keep this kid breathing. And when he finally stood up, the bullies who thought they owned that prison cafeteria were about to bolt for their lives. Before we dive in, please subscribe for more stories like this, as it means the world to us, and comment your country so we know where our family's growing. Jamal was 19, skinny but wiry, with that nervous energy of someone who'd never been around bars and razor wire before. First-time offender, bad decision with stupid friends, and now he was serving 3 years in a medium security prison that felt a lot less medium once the gates slammed shut behind him. The first 2 days, he tried to follow the rules older inmates whispered to him in the intake line. Keep your head down, don't stare, don't borrow, don't snitch, and don't try to act hard if you're not. Easy to say, harder when 50 men in orange and blue looked at you like a new toy. What Jamal didn't know was that someone on the outside had already made a phone call for him. His mom had grown up in the same neighborhood as a man named Marcus Reed, an inmate who'd already spent 15 years inside and had a reputation even the guards respected. Marcus wasn't the loud, table-pounding type. He was the opposite, calm, quiet, 6 feet of coiled muscle covered in faded ink. People said he'd done things before prison that made gangs step back. People also said that these days, he mostly read books, worked in the laundry, and kept to himself. But every now and then, if someone hurt a kid from his block, Marcus moved. The first time Jamal saw him was in the chow line. Marcus stood off to the side, hands behind his back, blue inmate uniform instead of orange, the sign of someone with a long-term custodial job. Their eyes met for half a second, and Marcus gave the slightest nod. Jamal didn't understand it, but for some reason, his shoulders relaxed a little. He didn't know that Marcus had held his mother's shaking hands in the visiting room and said, "I can't erase what he did, but I can make sure nobody breaks him in here." By the end of the week, word had spread that the new kid didn't belong to any group. That made him a target. In particular, it caught the attention of a crew led by a guy named Deke, a tattooed bully who'd been inside just long enough to think he was untouchable. Deke loved making examples out of new arrivals. It was his way of proving he ran the cafeteria, the yard, the benches by the phones, at least in his own mind. When he heard Jamal had turned down an offer to roll with him, Deke decided lunch on Friday would be entertainment. The cafeteria was loud that day, metal trays clanging, guys trading jokes and stories over mystery meat and soggy fries. Jamal sat near the middle, alone but trying not to look lonely, eyes on his tray. Marcus sat at the far end of the same table, reading a worn paperback, occasionally glancing up to scan the room like it was second nature. When Deke and his 2 buddies walked in, the energy shifted. Conversations dropped a notch. A few men moved bags off benches to get out of their path. Deke swaggered right up to Jamal. "Yo, new kid," he said, snatching a fry from Jamal's tray and popping it into his mouth. "Heard you told my boy you're not interested in protection." That true. Jamal's pulse spiked. He remembered the advice. Don't fold, but don't act like you want smoke either. "I'm just trying to do my time, man," he said carefully. "Don't want trouble." "See, that's the thing." Deke grinned, leaning closer. "You don't get to choose that. Trouble comes looking for you." One of Deke's friends, a thick guy with a buzz cut, slammed his fist down next to Jamal's tray, making the fork jump. The room quieted even more. COs were by the doors, heads turned but slow to move. They knew Deke caused scenes. They also knew stepping in too early sometimes made things worse. Jamal shifted on the bench. "Look, I don't got a problem with you." Deke's voice dropped. "You do now?" Before Jamal could react, Deke grabbed him by the front of his jumpsuit and yanked him up onto the table. Trays skidded, food flew, and Jamal's back slammed flat. A chorus of "yo" and "damn" rippled through the cafeteria. One of the buddies pinned Jamal's legs while Deke leaned over his chest, fist hovering like a hammer about to drop. "Welcome to lunch," Deke sneered. "We're going to show you how this place works." The guards started moving in, but they were still too far and too slow. Everyone else in orange either backed away or circled, hungry for drama. Everyone except Marcus. He closed his book, marked the page with one thick finger, and rose from the bench with no rush at all. To someone who didn't know better, it looked casual, almost lazy. But the men who'd been inside a while noticed. A couple of them actually stepped back, like they'd just seen storm clouds form over the table. "Get your hands off him, Deke," Marcus said, voice low but carrying through the room. Deke glanced sideways, annoyed at the interruption. "Mind your business, old man. This don't concern you." Marcus walked closer, calm as if he were approaching a vending machine. "That's where you're wrong," he said. "Kids from my block. That makes him my business." A murmur went through the crowd. Some of the younger guys didn't know Marcus's history, but the older ones did. They'd seen the aftermath of the last time someone ignored his warnings. A broken jaw, 3 transfers, and a gang suddenly under new management. Deke tried to laugh it off, but his eyes darted to the COs, then back to Marcus. "What? You his daddy now?" Marcus stopped just outside arm's reach. His expression never changed. "Last time," he said quietly. "Let him up." For half a second, it seemed like Deke might back down. Survival instinct flickered behind his eyes. But pride in a cafeteria full of spectators are a dangerous mix. He tightened his grip on Jamal's collar instead. "Nah," Deke said. "He made his choice. He didn't want my protection. Let's see if your name saves him when the lights go out." The moment those words left his mouth, the air snapped. Marcus moved so fast some of the guys watching swore they didn't see the first strike. 1 second his hands were down, the next his palm shot forward, smashing into Deke's nose with a sharp crack. Deke reeled back off the table, balance gone. Jamal rolled sideways on instinct as Marcus grabbed the second nearest bully by the front of his shirt and slammed him chest first into the edge of the table, knocking the wind out of him. The room erupted. Some inmates scattered to the walls. Others jumped onto benches for a better view. The COs yelled for everyone to get down. Trays clattered to the floor. Marcus didn't swing wildly. Every move was controlled, efficient, like he'd rehearsed it in another lifetime. Deke tried to recover, roaring as he charged again. Marcus sidestepped, hooked his foot, and sent him crashing to the floor. In one fluid motion, Marcus planted his knee between Deke's shoulder blades and pulled his arm up just enough to make him scream without breaking it. "I told you once," Marcus said into his ear, calm even with chaos exploding around them. "That was your warning. This is mercy. Next time, you won't get either." The third bully, seeing his crew leader pinned and the COs almost on top of them now, made his decision. He bolted, shoving through the crowd, hands up as if to say, "Wasn't me." A few other hangers-on scattered with him, suddenly remembering they had laundry detail, church, Bible study, anything but this. When the guards finally reached the table, Marcus was already on his knees, hands laced behind his head, eyes forward. He knew the drill. Jamal lay on the floor nearby, stunned but mostly unharmed, heart racing as he tried to process what had just happened. "Reed," one of the COs barked. "What did we tell you about getting involved?" Marcus shrugged slightly. "Thought you told us to keep the peace," he said. Looked like it needed keeping. They cuffed him anyway, hauling him to his feet. Deke was dragged up too, face twisted in pain and fury, nose swollen and eyes watering. He shot Marcus a look full of promises, but there was something else in it now, fear. As they escorted Marcus towards segregation, he glanced back at Jamal. Jamal finally felt safe now. And just like that, everything changed. Jamal wasn't alone anymore, and the bullies knew it. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. Bigger stories are on the way.